Welcome back everybody, another exciting video here at Blue Glow Electronics. Today on the bench we've got a Kenwood stereo integrated amplifier model KA5750. And one thing to note, I am trying out a different camera, so we'll see if this thing produces any better results. Even after all the tips that Camtasia gave me around their software and converting the bit rates on the audio and etc. etc. I'm still frustrated with it. It's time consuming. Still don't think it's producing great results. So we'll see how this little camera does. If it works out, then I'll tell you a little more about the camera. But what we're doing today is, guy dropped this off with me right around Christmas. So it's been in the queue for a little while. And up here, if you'll notice on top of it, it says phono channel broken. And I'm not exactly sure what phono channel broken means, but I've sent an email to him. Hopefully I'll get a response back on what that actually means. But I thought I'd start by just doing a general testing of the unit and see. Sounds like he's having some issues with the phono channel. But let me get it plugged up and we'll see what comes about. Okay, at this point we've basically got the unit plugged up into the Variac and got it set on the right speakers. Kind of got the bass in the middle, the treble a little to the right, balance on 0. Let's get it over here on aux. Make sure I've got the subsonic off. Got the monitoring in the middle. The source here, kind of up and in other words out of the loop. And then I've kind of got the loudness on. So we'll turn it on here and see if we get anything. And it would help if I would plug it in. Hang on one second. Oh, interesting to note. It's a European model. You know, it's got a European power plug, but then with an adapter on it. So we're going to plug it in over here and let's see what happens when we turn it on. We've got lights here and I heard the speaker protection relays kick in. Let's see what happens here on our handy dandy little if you'll notice, I got the one of the iPods I showed you before. I got a nice little leather case for it with a snap over cover to keep it from getting dusty. And let's see what we can get musically going here on this thing. Interesting. Don't know if you can hear that or not. Let me pause the music. Can you hear that? Lots of static on the volume knob. Let's see if there's any on the don't not hear any static on the balance knob, but maybe on the treble, maybe on the bass, but lots on the volume knob here. I'm hearing some cutting out on the balance as I turn it. It looks like we got some, some dirty corroded pots in this thing, potentiometers. We're gonna check that out. I want to check it out on phono real quick. Okay, so here's a little tip on phono. If you put the volume knob all the way almost to the very left where there's no volume at all, you can feed right out of a phono cable into the phono jack, and actually hit play here, and let's see. Yeah. Now you can hear that the audio is very bassy at this point in time. It's because there's an impedance match between this this unit here and the actual phono input. So, but for what I'm wanting to do right now, I'm just wanting to make sure that both channels are working. So when it says both channels are phono channel broken, I don't think that's the case. I think what's happening is this guy's probably using this thing on phono only, and he's got some noise coming from the balance and the volume pot. But like I say, I've got an email out to him, and I think I'm going to pause this video for a day or so and wait on the wait to get an email back and see what he says. And we're going to hook it up to a real turntable, as well as kind of clean the pots in this thing. And then we'll do a little bit of check on the distortion and spectrum analysis. Okay, we've got this thing hooked up, and got it hooked up over here on a turntable that this is a Fairchild 412 turntable that I restored a few years back. Beautiful table from the 1950s. I don't know if you can see just how beautiful the wood is on this thing. It's amazing. It's got a nice Grado wooden arm on it and an original early Grado 8MX, no, not MX, I have to think what it was, cartridge on it. I think it's 8MZ. Little Leon Bridges, one of the best albums I think that's came out in the last year or so. Yeah, it might be hard to hear, but I got crackling coming from the volume knob here as I turn it. One thing's for sure, the amp's working, so it's not not blown, not shot, whatever. Just I think it's got some dirty potentiometers that need to be cleaned up on the inside there, and I'm gonna check the power supply in it while I'm in it as well. So stop this over here and let's dive into this thing. Okay, we got the cover off of this thing. Yeah, I'm kind of glad this thing is working. These things are a pain, the Kenwoods with the transistors mounted down in here. Sometimes you can put a lot of time into repairing those things. It's interesting, the potentiometers in this thing, I don't know if you can see it or not, but it's about the size of my thumbnail, little dinky potentiometers. So same down here for the treble, bass, and whatnot. The volume one's got a normal sized pot on it, but guess there's not a lot flowing through them, so it's probably okay. I'm going to flip it over and check out these two caps right here and kind of measure some voltages in here real quick to make sure they match up with the schematic. And hold still and we'll do that. Okay, we just tested them with our handy little Atlas ESR meter. These two capacitors here, you can see the big connections on both sides there. And believe it or not, they tested out at 0.06 ohms of ESR, and the capacitance seemed to be in line. So I'm believing the power supply caps to be good in this thing. Let's flip it over and measure a few voltages. Okay, 28 volts is right, AC. I checked both sides of this output transformer. It's putting out well, and now I got to find the other side of this power supply and check the output voltages. Okay, one of the main voltages I wanted to check was the on these transistors right here, and we're getting, let me get it right here on this, getting 41.5 volts there, and on the NPN ones we're getting minus 41.5. So the good news is they're kind of balanced symmetrically in. The 41 volts is what I'm supposed to be getting according to the schematics. So yeah, I'd always like to just check to make sure the transistors are getting the right voltages and that are biased properly. The customer did not ask for a restoration, and that's one of the things I've got on my website now is a question and answer section. One of the questions I've got on there is, what is the difference between having my unit, whatever that is, serviced and having it restored. And you know, a restoration, I would go through this thing and basically replace all the capacitors front to back. I would check some of the key components, some of the resistor values in it, especially as they relate to the biasing of the transistors. I would do a thorough search on the web and make sure, you know, look for any common known faulty problems with these things and investigate that well. I would certainly deox all the pots, clean all the connections and whatnot, clean all the switches, and you know, that would, on something like this, if it wasn't broken, that would kind of be a full restoration. Sometimes, you know, people are wanting a full restoration and it may not be working, which would involve doing some service as well, you know, replacing transistors or tubes or whatever. But in this case, you know, the guy just asked to have it serviced, which basically what I do with a service is I look for what's causing whatever issue it is, and I fix that problem. And I give the unit a general check over just to make sure there's nothing else I couldn't fix while in there real easily. But I don't go to the extent that I would in a restoration, where you basically, you know, kind of restore this thing from one end to the other, replacing components, even though they haven't failed, ones that might fail down the road. So, you know, there's always the chance when you get something serviced. It's no different than taking your car to the shop and get your brakes fixed. You know, 3 weeks later you may have a headlight burnout. Well, if you had asked for a full restoration of your car, they would have probably replaced the brakes, they'd have probably rebuilt the transmission and the engine, they'd have probably repainted your car, they'd have probably replaced your headlights along the way to kind of prevent future issues. So big difference in price between a service and a restoration. You know, my guess is this service, if at all it turns out to be, is the pots and cleaning the switches, testing it out, putting it on the bench, analyzing it or whatnot. Probably be about an hour's worth of labor, so it'll be about $45. You know, a full restoration on this thing could get up into the, you know, maybe $150 to $300, just depending on what all's involved in it. And sometimes it costs more to restore a unit than it actually does to go buy another one. The problem is when you go buy another one, it may need restoring as well, so don't forget that. Let's get this thing flipped over and clean out the pots now that I'm feeling like the transistors are biased properly. Looks like the power supply is working good and clean, and let's clean it up and then put it on the bench and see, hook up some equipment and see how it does, see what the numbers on it are. Okay, with the paper towel always handy, and remember my last video on the deoxit, look here, you can see the, you kind of see the little slot here, and it kind of goes both left and right. And so I'll kind of get this red thing in there, and hard to do with one hand here, but kind of get some in there going one direction, then get some in there going the other direction like that, and then you just kind of work it back and forth. You can see it running out on the board here a little bit. This stuff, remember the conversation we had, it doesn't dry very quickly. A little bit more down in there. And doesn't dry very quickly, and that's intentional. It's designed to get in there and kind of work away at the oxidation. Keep moving that thing back and forth. I usually like to do 20 times at least on these things. What you're basically doing is using the wiper to kind of then, as the stuff soaks in a little bit, to just work back and forth. Plus you're kind of working the lubricant element of this stuff down into the shaft and and other areas of the potentiometer to help lubricate that thing. I think that's about enough for that one. The good news is on these, remember you can see the whole slot here on the back side, and really easy to spray down in there. And now we'll start sorry, I'm not used to this new camera yet. And actually this is not a new camera. I've had it for quite a few years. It's still an HD camera. I've had it a couple of years. I use it for recording concerts and live concerts, but I never really thought about using it for making a video here, so we'll see how it does. Okay, kind of got that one done well. I'm going to hit these other three without the camera. Just, you can see there's a couple more down here. It's actually just two, I'm sorry, one here and one here. And then I've got a switch or two I'm going to hit as well. If you notice the switch down here, it's got a couple holes in the top of it here. Love them when they do that, because then it's just easy to spray a little bit down in there like that. And kind of turn back and forth. Yeah, good stuff there. Alright, I'm going to cut the camera off and finish cleaning these other two real quick. Okay, we kind of got down in here below the balance thing and got down in here and got all these switches. We got the switch mounted up here for the kind of aux, phono and radio or whatnot. We got down there and got that switch. We got these two over here, and we got the switches over here on this side. I can tell you, I went to look at the back about cleaning the RCA jacks, but whoever owned this took a really good care of it. So it looks really good. I don't think there's anything needs to be done there. I don't clean something just for the sake of cleaning it, especially like when I'm trying to polish or something, because you just risk over time wearing down the original finish there. So far this thing is testing out good. Let's get it hooked back up now and let's see what we've got. You can see the kind of downward look of the whole thing. You got the transformer here, got the power supply section in here, you got the little phono section right over here. You got your preamp on the front end here, and then you kind of got your power amplifier along here in the middle, and you got your speaker protection relay down in here. So looking good. Let's do two things. Let's hook it back up and listen to a turntable, make sure it's sounding good, and then let's hook it up to some of the bench equipment. Okay. Let's see here. Alright, let's hook it up now to the to some bench equipment. Okay, I went ahead and put the Fairchild turntable up because I'm confident on the phono stage at this point. It's really all in the front end here on the knobs. It's a great turntable, that Fairchild. It's one I'm planning to put a vintage mono cart on one day and make it a part of just a mono setup that I have down in the other shop. We'll get that done. I'll show it to you. But one thing I did find, I noticed when I was turning this knob here, watch how the board on the back here kind of moves back and forth. It's pretty loose. You can see it actually kind of wobbling, and you grab this shaft here on the front, you can see it's pretty loose. So I'm going to use a nut driver or something to get in there and tighten up that nut just a little bit, and then we're going to hook it up. We'll get the oscilloscope going here. We're going to get the HP 8903 audio analyzer going, and we'll get the 3582 spectrum analyzer all going here, and check it out just a second. Let me fix this knob. Okay, we've got this thing right now. You can see here it's at 1 watt of output on both channels right now. You'll notice a nice clean sine wave up here, no noise on it whatsoever. Over here, 0.05% distortion right now, and if you'll notice up here on the spectrum analyzer, we're sitting at oops, I'm sorry. It's a little bit of a whale scale. If I come back down here on scale, just the primary, no harmonics whatsoever here. So that's beautiful. Let's try the other channel here, and whoa, slightly less, 0.04% distortion. Still nice and clean, same level output, same nice clean little output here on the spectrum analyzer. Let's jump it up a little more than 1 watt. All right. 0.06% distortion, nice beautiful sine wave, about 11-12 watts out right now on this thing. Still nice and clean and sharp over here, just the slightest little bit of a hiccup over here, it's just the slightest little blip there on the odd order harmonics there. So beautiful. let's see what happens here. Let's crank it on up to 40 watts roughly right there. 0.17% distortion. Cut this down. It's starting to get it, but no clipping at this point. Still a beautiful sine wave. And you know, at 40 watts here, still beautiful. Nothing to really measure there on the scale whatsoever. And if we crank this thing all the way up to its total output of around 60 watts. Yeah, when I get the 60 watt range, I'm about 55 watts right there. You start to see here, nothing on the top end, but the bottom part of this peak starting to clip just the slightest bit, and there goes the top right behind it. Which is throwing, but you know, even sitting right there, we're still at 0.7% distortion, even with that little clip on the bottom, and that's at about 50 watts. As soon as I jump it on over there, though, it really starts flatlining, and jump up there a good little bit in distortion to 5.98%. And you can start to see the little blips down here rise up a little bit. So you can see the light in the shop there. But yeah, I could be driving it a little hard too, causing a little bit of that clipping. But you know, this thing's rated as a. Let me look it up and see what it is rated as. Okay, that might explain it. The KA5750, the specs, 40 watts per channel. Way down there about where we've been measuring it at, the 0.04% distortion. So yeah, no wonder when I get up into the 60 watt range it's starting to clip. But you know what? This thing worked perfectly at the 50 watt range, so hats off to Kenwood on this one. Alright, I'm as happy as can be with how this thing turned out. Won't be that bad, you know, won't break his piggy bank, the customer, and things should be good to go for a while. You know, somewhere down the road, 5-10 years, you know, it may need a restoration and get some capacitors replaced or whatnot, but I thought the thing was performing quite well for what it is. You know, I thought I'd read you an email. You know, I made a video a while back where I did a Pilot 232 amplifier for a guy, and just out of the blue today, I got an email from him. You know, and it kind of shocked me, a little surprised, and I was extremely happy to get the email. And this is what it kind of said. It said, "Mark, I would just like to thank you for my great sounding amp. You worked on my Pilot 232 back in January, sunny caps, Russian paper and oil, replaced older paper and oil, etc. I'm really pleased with the amp. Please see the enclosed picture of my amp. It is very enjoyable to listen to music for many hours. I highly recommend your service. Regards," and then the customer's name. So I was extremely happy to get that email. I get those from time to time, and I get a lot of thank you for doing this stuff. You know, you've inspired me type things, so that stuff keeps me going, I promise you. Keep giving me feedback like that, and I'll make these things all day long. One last thing I want to show you that I noticed when I was doing the pots earlier that I did not mention in my deoxit video, and I meant to, is on the top of a can of deoxit, there's a little adjustment here, and it's on, like if you turn the little thing right there to low, you've got medium and you've got high. It's a pretty neat feature I've never really seen before other than on these cans. Not to say that it's rare, I just don't see it. But you know, it lets you control the volume of the spray coming out. It's a pretty neat feature. I usually use it on low. It works really well, but there have been times I've been trying to clean out something kind of gummy and have used the high. So give me some feedback on this camera. Let me know how it did, and it was really easy to use. I like that fact, and if so, we'll keep using this thing. Thanks everybody. Keep watching, keep giving us feedback, and we'll keep making these things.